Vamos. Let's go. Yes. Yes.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for inviting me. It's a long way from Peru. It's my third time in China. My ancestor in Peru came in the third expedition of Pizarro, so I have similarities. Let's talk quickly on 5 issues. Okay, I will talk about evolution, about South America, Latin America or South America and Africa, Peru and China, and finally what is exactly what we are wanting to develop here. Okay? First of all, let's talk evolution. Of course, we come here, and I remember Jean-Paul Sartre when he went to Moscow and visited the metro there, and he said, well, I visited the future and it works. Soviet Union was the best country in the world before Second World War, even before Second World War. Even though it has a lot of poverty, that innovation was thriving. But that's exactly the sentiment that is now in 2026 in China. Awesome, incredible, beautiful China. How come? I cannot believe it. And you are receiving millions of people even to go for doctors. And will come thousands of students to see technology, to be trained in a new model. China is the leader of the world without any doubt today. Let's talk about South America. South America is a country larger than China, and it's a different topography, different geology, different settings, okay? And in terms of, especially in terms of the two things that you should know, food and minerals. You are buying 150 million tons of soybeans from Brazil and Argentina. And with these up and down political swings, you try to buy more from Brazil now and less from the United States. So most of the Chinese food is coming from South America. You rely on the soybeans coming from Brazil. And today, the Brazilian soybeans are facing a trouble because the Panama Canal is being controlled by the Americans. It may be blocked. Why don't you bring it to Peru? And of course, there are plans, too slow yet, to build a couple of railroads and go all the way to the Pacific and ship it from Peru. Today, they are developing a third corridor in Chile. But again, all these things are subject to changes about politics. But South America has a lot of minerals also. It has a Precambric, or before the Precambric, it has new minerals in the Mesozoic, and all these categories of minerals. In Peru, the main refinery that is not working anymore used to produce 22 elements, antimonium and iridium, and all the complex minerals. And we have complex minerals, new and old, mostly new. Mostly copper, gold, zinc, silver, but there's also vanadium and uranium, and nowadays lithium. So there's ample space to research. Now let's talk about South America vis-a-vis Africa, because in Africa, Chinese companies have been bringing a lot of development, a lot of changes, and a lot of early industrialization. I have to tell you that I look on envy with DRC when I see the grades of copper is twice the average grade of copper that are in Peru. And of course, they have overcome longer distances and a lot more difficult. Africa is still plagued with wars, tribal war differences. They have a long story of colonialism that only ended 20, 30, 40 years ago. Of course, there's a lot way to go. And China will have to lead them to evolve. But today is a camp of fighting between the US and China. The Lobito corridor deal will bring a lot of difficulties, and I hope that you can think quickly to turn to South America in advance of these difficulties. Let's talk about Peru and China. Peru inside South America has more compatibility than any other country. First of all, all their names show us complex situations like Shanghai and Shanghai, Huanchaco and Huanchai, or Huamachuco, and so the language is giving you indication that maybe all Chinese navigators were already there 1,000 years ago. Now, in the 19th century, we received like 100,000 yellow people, they said, to come to work for the crops, collection crops, because the black was broken slavery, and they brought these 100,000 Chinese. These 100 Chinese, the basis of commerce, small trade, and they now are fully integrated in society. Nowadays, in the last 20 years or 10 years, you have a lot of Chinese. The plains are full of people. And I have to say that the Chinese, the new Chinese, the Chinese, contemporary Chinese,